Today we're going to walk through a quick tutorial on how to use Excel for both quantitative and qualitative data analysis. Specifically, we're going to focus on performing data analysis for evaluation purposes. We'll start with a few simple data cleaning techniques. Data cleaning just means that we will be formatting the data in a way that makes it easier to work with. Let's look at an example of data from a survey. So here we have data from questions that rely on the Likert scale, which is a popular scale used in evaluation. It prompts individuals to rate things on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. So in column A, we see a list of names, and then their corresponding responses to 3 questions. However, all the questions and answers are condensed into one column, column B. This arrangement makes it harder to see the distribution of answers for each question. To clean up this data, we'll use the Text to Column tool. This tool can be found under the Data tab, under Data Tools. So let's run through an example. Let's make sure we have our data selected, and then we hit Text to Columns. Our data here are separated by what looks like commas, so we're going to select delimited, and then make sure that we select comma as the delimiter. We don't really care about what our data format is, so we can just leave that general. And then the destination for the first cell is B1, so that's correct. Now all of our questions and answers are in their own columns. Another helpful data cleaning technique is finding and removing duplicate values. Let's say we want to find out how many people in our survey data have the same name. So we'll select the column with names, go to Home, Styles, and select Conditional Formatting. Now we want to highlight cell rules, and you'll see the bottom one is duplicate values. So here it's telling us that it's going to format each cell that has a duplicate, and it's going to format it according to whatever color you pick, so we'll just go with green. And now we can see that there's 2 Brians in our data. Now, if we wanted to delete all the duplicates, we would go to the Data tab, under Data Tools, and then hit Remove Duplicates. So because we're only interested in duplicated names, we're going to select column A and deselect the rest. Now it's telling us that it removed one of the duplicates, and we have 12 unique values remaining. And then we see the highlight goes away because we only have 1 Brian left. So there's just a few techniques to format your data to make it a bit easier to work with. Remember to always check your data before analysis to see if there's any missing data or formatting issues. Addressing these issues before starting can save you a lot of time and headaches. Now we'll move on to analysis. So here's an example worksheet with both quantitative and qualitative data. We'll start with the quantitative data. So for quantitative analysis, we'll rely on Excel's built-in functions. Excel has tons of useful functions, but for our purposes, we'll just go over a few that are handy for use in evaluation. For those of you who have never used Excel functions before, functions are always performed by first typing an equal sign followed by the name of the function. So say we want to know the sum of the answers for quant question 1 and quant question 2 for our first participant, which is Ivory. We would type equal sum, and then we select our data, which is just these 2, and hit enter. So now we can see that the sum for Ivory for questions quant 1 and quant 2 is 0.59. Here I've created a little table to house some of the important information from the quantitative data that will be used in the evaluation. So something we often want to look at in evaluation is average values. Say we want to know what the average number was overall for quant question 1, or column C. For this we will put equal average, and then our selected data, which in this case is C2 to C101. But you can also select this manually. And now we can see that the average answer for this question was 5.4. Another thing we might want to look at is how many people answered this question overall. So how many cells have data compared to those that were left blank? To do this, we'll use the COUNTA function, which simply counts all cells that are not empty. So once again, we'll type equal COUNTA, and then the range of data we want, which once again is C2 to C101. This tells us that we have 99 cells with data. So out of 100 people, only one person didn't respond to this question. The last function I'll go over is COUNTIF. COUNTIF is useful if you want to count a specific instance of something. It only counts something if it is exactly equal to what you're looking for. Say we want to know how many people answered 1 to this question. We would type equal count if, and then once again our selected range, and our criteria, which is 1. So now this tells us that 12 people responded 1 to question quant 1. Now that we've covered some of the basics, let's get into some qualitative analysis. Qualitative data can't be analyzed through mathematical functions, so instead we need to find ways to sort and group the data to pull out the main points so that we can display the important takeaways. One of the easiest ways to get a big picture look at your qualitative data is to sort it alphabetically. To do this, you want to first establish all your column titles as filterable. This can be done by simply selecting your column titles, pulling up the drop-down menu for Sort and Filter, and then hit Filter. This will put little drop-down arrows next to each column title. So clicking on this, you will see options Sort A to Z or Sort Z to A. Let's sort our qualitative question 1 A to Z. Now we can see all our qualitative answers grouped together, making it easier to find similar responses. Our example here contains random Latin words, but for actual survey responses, it can be helpful to group so you can quickly see how many people give good feedback, such as great, or say things like, I don't know. We can also utilize the function COUNTIF that we talked about before to count all answers that contain specific words. For example, let's say we want to find all answers that contain the word diem. We would use equal count if, and then select our range. We'll go for qualitative answer 1. So E1 to E101. And then we want to type diem and make sure that it's in quotation marks. So you always want to use quotation marks when you're searching for non-numeric data. Otherwise, Excel will get confused. So this will give us all the cells that exactly match diem, which happens to be 0, because nobody answered just diem. There's diem in addition to other words. So if we want to just look for cells that contain diem and maybe other things, we're going to change a few things. So here we're going to go back in, and we're going to add asterisks around the word diem. Make sure that these are inside the quotation marks. Adding this means that it'll search for diem, and it doesn't have to be an exact match. Just as long as it's in the cell, it'll count it. So now that tells us that 7 people answered qualitative question 1 with diem somewhere in their answer. So those are just a few tips to help you get started on program evaluation using Excel. I hope this helps. Good luck and happy evaluating.